And so Ezekiel talks about the twig coming symbolically, type and shadow, from the lofty branches, which means the leadership of the cedars of Lebanon, the very tall, mighty cedars of Lebanon. And he's flown by an eagle to a land of merchandise and planted in the land which then becomes the land of these cedars of Lebanon, which is not in Lebanon anymore. It's this new land where an eagle took it to, land of merchandise, now the land of these cedars of Lebanon. And so when you know it's America, you know that these cedars of Lebanon, where this twig, last days Messiah, is to be born, is Oakland, California, next to San Francisco, California, which is the land of merchandise, mercantilism. And then Ezekiel goes on further. He says he's going to move. He's not going to stay and be born and raised in Oakland, California. He's going to move to a land of great waters, Michigan, a land of great waters. And so that's also a place where he's going to be living. And then it also talks about the top of the mountain, Utah. And again, the Egyptian Horus claims his nobility through the evil usurper Set, not Horus, or Osiris, sorry. And so this video is going to be long. Maybe I should cut it in half. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I could do two. I'll have to find a breaking point around wherever I end. Split it in half. Maybe we'll do 3 parts. And so, yes, Utah, meaning the Mormon church, is the usurping church. We already know the government is the American government, because the total solar eclipse occurs over America. And so thus we're looking for somebody who gets placed on the throne as king by the corrupt government, the dragon, as John the Revelator calls him. And so yes, Trump is fitting the time frame of when all this occurs, and he was put on the throne of America by Putin. And there's more to confirm all this. That's why Trump's being impeached. It's mostly for his Ukraine thing, but all roads lead to Putin. And so, this last days Messiah will be an American of the corrupt government, Set, coming from Set. Set is the personification of both government and religion. And so he has to come from the corrupt government of America and the corrupt religion of America. And so the Egyptians all knew about all of this, that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints would fall into apostasy with the murder of the first religious high priest. Not king. Joseph Smith was murdered before he could run for president to see if he could win the election. So he failed to be Osiris, symbolically. Though he was trying to be Horus, but he ended up becoming Osiris in type and shadow symbolism. And so this last days Messiah is someone who is from the Mormon Church and from America. And that's why the Knights Templar came to America before Christopher Columbus and bought the land from the Indians, the Mandan tribe, and put the Kensington Stone up, and had Little Italy where they buried the plates, which was passed down through folklore that it had to do with what they found under the Jerusalem temple, which everybody tried to claim was Solomon's temple. But Solomon, if you understand my Paleo-Hebrew, Salam is peace. Jerusalem, peace, with Jeru before it. And the N at the end of Solomon, as a person, it means king of Salem. Whereas if it's talking about the land, it's the kingdom, or the tributary kingdom, because Jerusalem was never its own dominant kingdom. It was always tributary to Egypt first, and then not Assyria, because Assyria didn't make it all that way down, but Babylon was the first after Egypt to make it a tributary kingdom, as they put Zedekiah on the throne. And so the Solomon temple is not referring to the 18th dynasty Egypt pharaoh, but that's what the Bible is referring to, is that one. But the temple was the Jerusalem temple that was not of Solomon of the Bible. Anyway, too complicated to try to explain to you, but it's just the king of Salem is Solomon. And so the Knights Templar are referring to that, and that's what Christians are referring to, though Christians try to, as well as Jews, try to say, no, it's the King David's son. No. And so Ezekiel also talks about the eagle, and so with the church, there's the Boy Scouts with Eagle Scout. So yes, he'll be an Eagle Scout. And when you utilize the other stories of the Old Testament, and even the New Testament, because there's the marriage feast of the bridegroom, with the 10 virgins, referring to the last days. There's a wedding feast. Well, in the Old Testament, where's the wedding feast? Samson. Again, it's got the N at the end of Shemesh, which is the sun in Hebrew. So the N at the end, if it's referring to a person, is King Shemesh, the Sun King. If it's referring to a land, that it would be the kingdom of the sun, which would be Heliopolis in Egyptian, which is On. And again, On is Ayin, which is the circle, symbol of the sun, and the N, when referred to as a kingdom, is the kingdom of the sun, Heliopolis. So that's how it works. That's my theory for Paleo-Hebrew. I've pretty much established it as fact because of all the testing that I've done with the vocabulary as well, which I need to publish. And so Samson starts off, he's born, and then we go to a wedding feast. He meets a girl, wants to marry her, gets his parents, and there's the event where a young lion, symbol of Judah, Utah, phonetically the same, he kills the lion, and then when he goes back to go to the wedding feast, there's a honeycomb, a beehive of honey with bees. Anybody familiar with downtown Salt Lake, Temple Square, where the Seagull Gate is, where it's a symbol of Brigham Young having murdered Joseph Smith and usurped his religion, and you see the Capitol building through the archway, symbol of the Brigham Young having taken over government for the area. There's the Beehive House, and then next to it is the Lion House. All you couples who get married in the Salt Lake Temple, what is a famous place to have dinner at while you're there? The Lion House. And you can have honey with your cornbread if you want. And wedding feast, Lion House, Beehive House. I doubt Brigham Young knew what he was doing. He did know Egyptian symbolism enough to show through the Egyptian symbolism on the Seagull Gate that he had murdered Joseph Smith and had conquered his religion and created his own government control. But his Adam God theory, he was correct in the sense that the Heavenly Father of Jesus Christ is Adam. However, it's not the correct Heavenly Father. So go back into the Bible. You have Cain and Abel, the son of Adam and Eve. And Cain murders Abel, usurps his kingdom. See where it's coming from? The Egyptian records. And then who replaces Abel as the next son? Seth. See what the author did there? He was using the Egyptian records to tell a story. And so in this particular story, who comes from the lineage of Seth, who is the usurper of Abel after Cain murdered him? Noah. Noah then becomes the last days Messiah, or Horus figure. So that whole thing is the Egyptian story of Osiris, Seth, and Horus. And then after the flood, Noah then becomes Osiris. Just like Moses. He starts off as Horus, grows up to an adult, then becomes Osiris. As Joshua, Jesus, takes over to let the house of Israel pass through the waters of the rivers with the Ark of the Covenant. This is all sexual innuendo. And if you need me to explain this to you, you've never had sex. And thus the seed of the house of Israel passes through the waters of the river with the Ark of the Covenant into the promised land where children are born. Again, everything about the religion is sex. The whole creation story, sex. Women should know it because the baby's inside your womb in a little thing of water. And thus the baby is born. All symbolic. The religion was sex ed back then. And all about the birthright blessing son who was to restore the kingdom. And so Osiris's father, Abel's father, is Adam. And thus why Brigham Young was confused and said, well, that's what Joseph told me. He's because Joseph knew about the Egyptian story and was telling Brigham Young, but Brigham Young didn't understand it. And so he just said, well, Adam is now our Heavenly Father who gave birth to Jesus. Well, he's referring to the Bible story, which came from the Egyptians, not the gospel story of Jesus in 33 A.D. A different person. In fact, 33 was several, there was one, Vespasian, I think is his name, who knew of this Messiah and called himself that person. And everybody wrote books to support that. But that's where Brigham Young got his Adam God theory from, was from the Egyptian tale from the Bible. However, Heavenly Father, as we know him, is the one who breathed life into Adam and made him a living soul. That is Shu, the father of Geb, who is Adam, who is the father of Osiris. And so Shu is technically the Heavenly Father that Mormons know. And that's where Brigham Young went wrong. But of course, none of the Brighamite prophet lineage knows any of this. They're clueless. It's only Joseph Smith who knew of it, because they were a part of the Yorkites, which involved the Knights Templar as the highest ranking, which is all about Egyptian.